No matter how much money you have, you can always spend more on tech, and you can always spend more speccing out a really good rendering machine. What's going on, guys? My name's David Tomic and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a brand new tower build. Whether you're looking at building a new computer for rendering YouTube videos, potentially doing some photo editing, or maybe even doing some architectural work, you might need a brand new custom built PC in 2019. Now, like I've mentioned, you can go and spec out a computer upwards of $10,000 if you really want to, and chances are you're never actually going to use any of those features. However, if you are looking to build a computer just for yourself, something that you're going to be using on a day-to-day basis, and you need it to be powerful and do a lot of things that most other computers can't, well, today I'm going to recommend 3 different options for you guys to take a look at. What I'm not going to do in this video is go through step by step, spec by spec, and tell you what's great, what isn't. I am going to tell you the key necessities that you really need to watch out for, and then I'm also going to place the specs on the screen of each option that I'm recommending. This is going to give you guys a chance to quickly pause the video, take a screenshot if you need to, and then go to your local PC building shop and get something very similar if you need to, or just check out the different specs for yourself. So let's start off with option number 1, which comes in at the cheapest at about $2,000. Unfortunately, 2,000 Australian dollars is about the cheapest you're going to be able to get a computer that's going to last you the next 5, even maybe 10 years. Now, this is a minimum recommendation I would recommend for somebody out there starting a graphics intensive course, potentially at university, or somebody looking to design YouTube videos to create a YouTube career or do anything along those sorts. So the key specs here to take note of is the fact that this is an i7 processor. There's no way I'd recommend anything under an i7 processor for any sort of Windows editing work. If you're running a Mac computer, you can usually get away with it on an i5, but when you're running the similar Mac specs, you're spending double the amount just to get the same result. The second thing that's important here is the CPU liquid cooling. Now, this isn't going to be something that most people are going to recommend on a lower budget end computer, but the simple fact is, when you're actually rendering something that's quite graphics intensive, potentially doing 3D modeling or even exporting a 4K video, well, you're going to find that your computer is going to get very loud and very hot very, very quickly. Without proper cooling and without a proper cooling system in your tower, you're actually going to see the computer deteriorate very quickly, and you're going to go and waste that $2,000 that you've spent on a new computer. Once you start getting into the higher builds of option 2 and option 3, they come with recommended liquid cooling as standard, because people know you're going to be using these computers for very high-end rendering. Even high-end gaming sometimes pushes your computer very far. And the last thing that's a must-know on this list is the simple fact that it's a solid-state hard drive. If you're not using a solid-state hard drive in 2019, your computer is basically going to seem like the slowest thing on the planet. By no means does this mean your computer is a worse off product if it doesn't have a solid-state hard drive. It just means that it's going to load things a lot slower. And especially for people like myself in particular, I'm actually quite impatient with technology, so I like my things to be short, sharp, and on the dot. When you're using something like a solid-state hard drive, you know it's going to load within milliseconds of you clicking it, and you're never going to have to worry and go, oh my god, this is taking so long to load. So you might be 50, 60, 70, maybe $100 better off by not going for the solid state hard drive, but your solid state with a minimum of 120 gigabytes of space is going to be a lifesaver down the track. Okay, so option 2, we move up to about the $3,000 price bracket. Now, the reason for this jump predominantly is for the simple fact that we're moving from an i7 processor up to an i9 processor. The reason I've selected this i9 processor in particular is the simple fact that it has 8 core and 16 threads in the processor itself. So when you're doing actual rendering work, exporting 4K videos, 8K videos, generating 3D models, potentially doing high-end gaming, what your computer actually utilizes is that thread count. So if you're able to give your computer 16, 32 threads, then it's going to be able to pump out that image a lot quicker and a lot smoother. This is something I discovered a long way down the track after trying to render thousands of different images during my thesis project and just falling short, having to wait 5-6 hours for some of these images to render. when you start researching and finding out what lacks in your computer, you find out that sometimes a simple thread boost in the i7 to i9 range is potentially a couple $100 well spent. But again, this is moving into territories where you don't really need to make the upgrade from the 2K option unless you're really dedicated to doing some high-end, labor-intensive graphic design. And finally, option 3 comes in at the top price range for me. I wouldn't recommend anything over this budget if you don't know what you're doing with a computer and if you aren't building it yourself. Once you start building it yourself, you know what the parts are, you know what exactly everything does, so you actually have a better understanding of what you're putting in. Whereas option 3 comes in at the 4,000 Australian dollar mark. Now the reason this comes in at platinum level here is because it is a 4K rendering machine. If you're out there looking to render 4K RAW files, 8K RAW files, or anything of that sort, well, this computer is going to be able to tackle the challenge no problem whatsoever. If your budget does allow for it, make sure you're going upwards of 32 gigs, if not potentially to a 64 gigabyte memory to really allow your computer to run free when it is exporting and rendering very high-end graphics intensive programs. It's all well and good having an amazing tower, but what happens about the screen, the keyboard, the mouse, the speakers? Well, these are some things that you can get away with quite cheap, or you can again do it on the quite expensive side. If you're doing architecture, for example, like I did at university, I would highly suggest having a dual screen setup. You're going to be using 2 screens almost 99% of the time. You're going to have one architectural program up here, a different document up here, constantly searching, constantly trying to figure things out. And even if you're doing video editing, it is extremely helpful to have multiple screens to be able to do your work a lot quicker. I found that the dual screen setup behind me has been ideal for every single task that I've had to do along the last 5 years. Now, if you haven't watched any of my videos before, I'm an entrepreneur in 2019. I run multiple businesses and I also work in the architectural industry. So when it comes to needing very good, high quality tech, I know all about it. If you're on a budget and looking for 2 27-inch screens, well, the Asus 27-inch IPS iCare is probably my #1 go-to. Coming in at about 250, 260 Australian dollars each, you can get away with a dual screen setup for about $500. If I were to upgrade my 2 screens behind me and take a step up, well, I mean, the choice is quite simple when you're stepping up to a big screen. Right now, I'd recommend the 49-inch Samsung ultra-wide curved display. This is one beast of a screen. It's going to set you back almost $1,200, and no, it is not 4K. Because of the aspect ratio of the actual screen itself, you can't actually physically get the 4K pixel ratio there. Now, if you're a gamer and you're looking for something different, again, this is an optimal screen for you to get the maximum real estate without the split in the middle where your 2 screens meet. Even these 2 screens behind me are almost bezel-less and almost have no black edging, but yet you still notice that there's a bit of a split down the middle. When it comes to the keyboard and mouse, there really is only one option. If you're looking at this video, then I know for a fact that you're going to be sitting at that computer for hours and hours every single day. And carpal tunnel is a serious problem when you start sitting at a computer for 10, 12 hours every single day. So there's really only one keyboard and one mouse that I recommend, and it's the one that I've personally purchased for myself. Logitech knows exactly what they're doing in this department. The Logitech MX Master S2 mouse is one of the best mice in the game right now, and I know that they're bringing out an S3 version with USB-C charging. Doesn't really mean too much right now, especially considering the mouse has about a 30-35 day charge time, so you don't have to charge it that often. It will be a really good feature in the future, so if you can hold off for the MX3, then definitely worth doing. As for the keyboard again comes from Logitech. It's a K800 illuminated keyboard, which makes it ideal for gaming, working, rendering, doing anything at all hours of the night. The keys are ultra quiet, so you're not going to keep anybody up while you're tapping away all night long. And again, same system as the Logitech mouse. The batteries last 30, 35 plus days, so you don't have to go out and charge it every single day. Completely wireless. Again, I know this isn't ideal for some of you gamers out there, but this isn't really targeted at the gaming community. Now that was a pretty long ramble, guys. I hope you got some very useful information out of it. I hope you took some screenshots. If you did, make sure you drop a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking about. Maybe I can help you design your next custom built PC, or maybe I can just offer you some advice of my experience that I've had over the years pushing computers to their absolute limits. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that subscribe button 2019 style, and I'll see you next Monday.